Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get all your questions in, your comments. We're going to get to all those here in just a little bit. Jerry has the shades on this morning for number one ranked Texas baseball. Good morning to you, Jerry.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's not for Jonah Williams, but we'll get to all of that. But yes, Texas baseball ranked one. And no, I did not find my Gooders. I'm doing what all OTF members should do. I bought Gooders this weekend to replace the ones that.
There you go.
See, I'm not just not a reader of the ad. I'm a big spender. $25 a pair.
Future so bright, you got to wear shades, right, Jerry?
I bought two pair, one for baseball and one for the next sport.
Yeah.
You're locked and loaded, ready to go. Well, speaking of locked and loaded, Sark helping his team out a little bit over the weekend on Friday, more specifically, guys, and they land 3 guys out of the portal.
I tell you what, talk about attacking your needs and going after them and getting them addressed in a relatively short fashion. 48 hours into the portal opening, Jerry and Blake, Texas emerges with 3 commitments. That goes on top of the one previously at wide receiver with Emmett Mosley. We'll start with Jack Andrews, the tight end out of Cal. He was an all ACC honorable mention last year, 56 catches, 623 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is a redshirt sophomore. He's originally a walk-on at Cal, whose senior season was impacted by COVID, et cetera. But look, Jerry, when we talk about Jack Andrews and what's going on there, it's clear that they now have someone with a lot of experience at tight end to join with Spencer Shannon and Jordan Washington, as well as the freshman Emery Winston and Nick Townsend. I think this was a key, perhaps the key pickup of the spring portal window. Simply because you can pencil him in as one of the 2 tight ends almost assuredly from the very get-go. Big pickup, I think, for the Longhorns. They needed somebody that had done it and been there a little bit to add to a room that's talented but young, relatively speaking.
Oh, and it goes into why, while I'll continue to say if you're a blue blood in the portal era, you just don't have an excuse for walking in a mic saying we're playing a bunch of freshmen this year, right? It's just, and that doesn't mean, and when I say inexperienced players, I mean like true freshmen that are starters 1, 2 on depth charts all over the place, right? Or more than you would want to see. Now, Texas sitting there with a guy that started over a year and a half at tight end in a Power 4 conference. They have 3 receivers now who have starter experience in a Power 4 conference. Obviously, Wingo and DeAndre Moore started a national semifinal game. Emmett Mosley, starter, obviously, at Stanford after he got going as a freshman. So you're sitting there, and now you're saying, okay, now we're a more experienced team headed to Columbus, and that also gives us time to work in all our talented freshmen in our program and not be forced. Those guys not be forced into playing huge roles right out of the gate. You can get those guys acclimated to college football and bring them along at the pace you want to, rather than being forced to play those guys in high-stakes games right out of the gate. And now there could be injuries that happen in fall camp that changes the equation. But Texas now, if you look at it, if you look at the experience around Arch, suddenly you have Wisner, who's a 1,000-yard rusher, Injuries, who's is more than a 1-year starter at Power 4, 3 receivers who have started games at Power 4 level. So, I mean, look, that's a much more experienced team when you look at the Ohio State game already in a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah, really, you have the tight end Jack Andrews. Look, I will add this. I mean, people are asking. Here's one right here asking about a blocking tight end, Jesse Matarazzo. Do we still need a blocking tight end and disruptive defensive tackle? Spencer Shannon is a blocking tight end. So I don't know that they're going to go for a quote-unquote blocking tight end. Could they go for another tight end just to reinforce the position, potentially? A disruptive defensive tackle? how many of those are really out there? I know people are talking about Murad Watson, young man out of Syracuse, Irvington, New Jersey, but he's got a lot of suitors, Texas included. I think Tennessee, Miami, also going to be involved there, among others. Could be SMU is what I'm hearing. But a lot of people going after Murad right now. So we'll see if Texas is able to get that defensive tackle / disruptor. They did add Levon Johnson, Jerry. And this is where, you have no excuse to be young, right? And we talk about that. Here's a guy who is slated to start for Maryland next season. Played 6 games, I believe, 8 games this year, 14 total tackles, 10 solos. He's scheduled to start for Maryland this year. Instead, he's going to be in the rotation at the University of Texas, along with Alex January, Cole Brevard, Hero Canoe, Travis Shaw, and others. What are your thoughts on adding the depth they're doing at defensive tackle as well?
Yeah, I think having a more than at times you have to have one. I think you have to have 1 or 2 difference maker guys, but after that, it's about having a solid rotation of players to where you don't feel like there's a drop off, especially against the run. You don't want to have a drop off against the run. That's the thing. And then Levon Johnson, another experienced guy who has 2. He's kind of like Hero Canoe. Now, he's played more in games than Hero Canoe has, but a couple of years into the college development process, body's developed, technique is developed. So you're getting a guy coming in who's going to already know how to technique-wise play the run. And I really think that's the key here for Texas and what they're looking for. I've been told multiple times, play the run first, because they know they have so many disruptive pass rushers around that position. And they know they have the linebackers that they want to keep free, Bobby. So I think Levon Johnson's a really good rotational piece. I'm not saying he can't play up to starter level, right? I mean, who knows? These guys have to go out and compete. That's what's going to happen. But he's a solid player against the run, and I think that's what they were looking for, number one.
I think he's also some insurance for Travis Shaw, who's been in and out of workouts this spring with some injury that he's still kind of managing. I would add this to that situation. You mentioned not, having this big drop from one to the other. Well, I mean, after Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, Texas went Jermaine Lole and Bill Norton this last year. That wasn't this big drop, especially not from a run game perspective.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what Jerry is talking about in that rotation. The last player that committed on a Friday night, guys, was Mason Shipley, a kicker out of Liberty Hill originally, signed with Texas State, has been the starter for them for 2 years. As you can see, 31, I believe, or 30 out of 34 for his career with a long of 60. Shipley's announcement came one day after he had visited Oklahoma. He then came down and visited Austin, committed to the Longhorns. One thing I would add with that 60-yard field goal, he's got a bigger leg than maybe Bert Auburn. The question that we need to see is whether or not he can be more consistent than Bert Auburn. Auburn obviously entering the portal on Thursday, I believe it was, or Friday morning. I can't remember which, but Auburn now moving on as a grad transfer from the University of Texas. Shipley, though, Jerry, is expected to take over the kicking chores, although Will Stone likely to still be the kickoff guy at this point. We'll see.
That's what I was going to say.
The portal, maybe.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's what I was going to say. We'll see what Will Stone does because he's handled kickoffs now for multiple years for Texas. So Mason Shipley, of all the guys and then the portal so far, he's got the most pressure on him because of what happened with Texas last year, a kick away from winning the SEC championship. He's the guy that comes in looking that's going to have the most pressure on him because if you look back at the Texas season, you're like, when Bert Auburn kind of lost his confidence over there on the right hash, it probably cost Texas winning the SEC in year one and then having a bye in the playoffs. So if you have a bye in the playoffs, Cam Williams doesn't get hurt against Clemson. I mean, so there's some things that are going to go on here. And Shipley, he ties injuries and Emmett Mosley's right there as far as the most impactful. Somebody asked who's the most impactful. I think all three of those guys. LaVon Johnson's going to play, but those three guys are all starters. So those are the most impactful guys, and obviously a tight end is huge in Sark's offense. But Shipley's got the most pressure because, game one, he could be walking out on the field in Columbus to win a football game very easily. I mean, he's got the most pressure of all these guys.
For sure. Okay, guys, real quick, I wanted to, if I can find it here, Greg Jackson says, good morning, OTF family, sitting in the waiting room as my wife has surgery. Just want to say best of luck, Greg, to your wife, and hope all goes well from all of us right here on Texas football.
I'm going to bring one up real quick before we go down. Alfio VC, congrats to my son, Jacob VC. He's got going to be a senior edge player in San Antonio, getting his first offer from UTSA. Because Alfio sent me stuff on his son, so I wanted to say a special congrats to Jacob VC because that's always a big, big day for these kids. Congrats to him.
Congrats, Alfio. I know that's a full circle moment for you, bud. Really do. Congratulations. Hey, we need to say thank you to our sponsor this morning as well. We'd like to thank John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are also UT grads. This family passion is what led John to brand his firm Longhorn Wealth Management and dedicate it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation for more than 30 years. John was thrilled to see the Longhorns do so well in the portal this past week. To celebrate those great additions to the team, John wants to encourage all OTF fans to secure their own financial futures by taking advantage of the free 90-minute private consultation that John is offering every OTF fan to show them how a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. Call John and the Longhorn Wealth Team, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation. Hook them from John Donovan and the Longhorn Wealth Team.
Okay. Well, more to talk about this morning, and we got some super chats as well. And so I want to go ahead and jump to one of those from Jack here. He says, burger money for Blake's boys. Jack, appreciate that. Do non-early enrollees like Nick Townsend have our playbook yet?
Yes, all those guys do. They always have the playbook. Now, how much are they really digging into it? We'll see. But they do have the playbook. And a lot of those guys, look, they get that playbook when they sign. So that's early December. And that's for the early enrollees, those guys that wouldn't be on campus for a few more weeks. Yeah, once they sign, they get all that stuff sent to them in, as well as for a guy like Nick Townsend. Now he's going to state in the 4x200 relay, I believe, for Decaney. Those guys also get like a little workout from Torrey Beckton. Now, how much do they actually have time to do that when you're in track season and whatnot? Not a lot of time. And guys like Nick Townsend, Jordan Coleman, Devin Coleman, they're going to be reporting. I was just looking up at my data on the computer. They're going to be reporting to Texas in about 38 days anyway. So they're about a month away.
Good stuff. Okay, well, we talked the portal. Let's talk a little recruiting as well. Jerry, what you got for us?
Yeah, so April 26th this weekend, I think it's going to be a big weekend for Texas recruiting. Is it going to be huge? I don't know about that. This weekend, there's going to be a lot of good names on campus, a lot of defensive linemen. I think we have Vodney Cleveland's huddle here. Vodney Cleveland's out of Birmingham. Parker played next to what I thought may have been the best D tackle. There he is. Thought about may have been the best D tackle in the country last year. Jordan Crawford, who signed with Auburn, who you'll see him on this tape. He reminded me of Casey Hampton. But Vodney Cleveland, a really talented guy as well, out of Birmingham. Parker. And he is one of the top D linemen in the country in the Southeast. He's going to be on hand this weekend, along with I'm bringing this list up. There's a number of D linemen are making their first visits to Texas this week. There is Kendall Gerville out of Fort Myers, who I think is absolutely a top 3 or 4 D lineman in the country. He has a June 20th official visit set. Vodney Cleveland at June 13th Texas visit set. Preston Carey from IMG scheduled to be in. He's one I'm watching to see if Texas sets up an OV with. Emmanuel Ruffin from Bessemer City, home of Bo Jackson. I'm seeing if Texas sets up an OV there. He's already got a packed schedule with LSU, Florida, Tennessee, and Alabama. Trenton Henderson, the edge from Pensacola Catholic, again, one of the best in the country. Kamari Brooks out of Georgia. Camden Hamil, the corner that I love out of Desert Edge in the Phoenix area. He's scheduled to be in this weekend. Brody Jennings, the corner committed to Michigan, who's a high school teammate of Jamie French, scheduled to be in this weekend. And then early in this week, Justice Fitzpatrick, either on the 22nd or 23rd, brother of Minka, he's at St. Thomas Aquinas, has June 13th, 15th official visit. He's scheduled to make his way to campus this week as well. So there's going to be a lot of names added to that, 26s, 27s. So it's going to be a big visit weekend for Texas. Big in terms of private commitments and such. I'm not saying that. Big in terms of solidifying position with guys who've never been on campus, then getting those official visits which are already locked in, and then some guys who haven't been on campus before that you're looking to get official visits from in June. These are positioning weekends for Texas, no different than the April 12th weekend, as you saw Dre Quinn set up OV and a number of other guys, 2 or 3 other guys set up OVs to Texas after those first unofficial visits. Damari Simeon, the defensive lineman out of New Jersey, will be back for an official visit. So it's a positioning weekend in the last positioning weekend for Texas, because after this weekend, Texas staff hits the road for the spring evaluation period.
And that's coming up on the final spring practice, Jerry, which ends this coming Saturday morning. Longhorns expected to be back at it, by the way, on the practice field Tuesday and Thursday of this week, and then finish up on Saturday morning with a spirited practice. As of right now, that Fan Appreciation Day is still ongoing, and we are expected to be there, Jerry, myself, as well as a host of On Texas Football folks. I hope to see you guys over there as well. Jerry, there was a scrimmage late Thursday night, a lot of ones or V1s. I don't know that I would call it a full-on scrimmage, but some news and notes that came out of that. Apparently, there were some struggles at field goal kicker on Thursday night. And that, I don't know that tipped Texas's hand, or if Texas was already headed in that direction with Mason Shipley, but certainly part of it. I would say also that Blake, and you wrote this over the weekend, Arch Manning has been really hot and then have some freshman moments. That seems to continue. I did hear about some drop passes from some of the elite freshman receivers that the Longhorns have on Thursday night as well. Just a little bit of tidbits and whatnot there. Maybe the biggest news, though, over the weekend, Blake and Jerry, it came from Texas baseball, who swept Auburn this weekend. Number 8 Auburn. Texas swept them. They did it with the help of a young freshman, Jonah Williams. And that is the football/baseball player out of Galveston Ball that is a true freshman at Texas. He came in and just delivered. I think he went, 5 of 6 for the weekend, Blake, and just absolutely lit up the lineup. Had 3 hits, I think, go over 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity. Anyways, Texas has perhaps a new guy to watch. I don't know how else to say this other than Jonah Williams, the young freshman, could be something special in burnt orange going forward. But he had a tremendous weekend.
I was going to say, Blake, something we should get into with him is the book is being built on. I said this last night. The book is being built on Jonah Williams now. So people are going to start pitching him a little differently after this weekend, right? So you have this initial high. You may have a little lull when people start to find a way to get you out a little bit. But then it's how you respond to that, which I think is always the key in athletics, whether that be an edge rusher, Colin Simmons. Okay, somebody built a book on him. Now they're going to start playing him different. Now, how's he going to react to that? What is his plan for that? I think that's going to be the fun part with Jonah, is now people are building a book on him because he will stay in the lineup, especially due to injuries, and has played his way into that lineup. So now they'll build a book on him. They'll find a way to get him out a little bit. And then what's his bounce back from that? If he bounces back from that really quickly and really impressively, then that is going to be a problem for people. If it takes him a while to get through that, then it's a little bit of a longer runway. But if he gets through that quickly, all bets are off for a guy that has that much talent.
Yeah, and we got to see his athleticism on full display this weekend, guys, whether it was stolen bases or when he bunted and still made it to first safely. And we actually have a clip here from Schloss taking a few questions about Jonah that I'm going to play you guys.
Yeah, I think he'll be out there on DKR field.
Think so?
Oh yeah, he'll be out there. He's excited to play football.
You don't think Sark's forgotten about him?
Surely he has. I hope he was watching though. I mean, Sark's a baseball guy, and so it'd be awesome if he was watching. I'm sure that would fire me up.
What was your decision to go with Jonah tonight? What went into that?
He's been putting together, been trying to find the right day. He's been putting together good batting practices. Fisher is a guy that's not as tough on the lefties as he is on the righties. So it's kind of, even though it was a left on left, it was a good matchup, I felt like. And frankly, it was his turn to run out there. I mean, some other guys have gone out there and tried to give us something or gotten hurt. And Jonah is he's been such a great teammate. You knew just him, obviously the fans are excited to see him, but he's been such a great teammate that level of energy he brings, and you see that competitive spirit. That's high level. It's a high level competitive athlete.
I'm predicting he's going to be the punt returner next year, by the way. I've been predicting that. I'm sticking with it. If I'm wrong, you can call me out.
What do you think about Emmett Mosley as punt returner, by the way? It's another name that we haven't really put out there. People are asking Jerry and have asked, what the plans are for Jonah. I think he's going to be in the starting lineup for Texas for a while at left field, and he's going to make the postseason roster, which means he's going to be delayed getting back to football. There's no doubt about it, especially if Texas continues this run. Number one ranked team in the country right now in baseball. But my take on Jonah Williams is that, sometimes guys just have it. Yeah, I think Jonah Williams may just have it. And Longhorn fans are going to be along for the ride for a couple of years here.
And why I've said this on punt returner before he started, I was lucky. I live down here. Galveston Ball's in the district I grew up in, Friendswood, right? So I've seen him a lot in multiple sports. And the one thing I will say about him is the reason I think he can take over punt return duties at some point his freshman year is he's a fearless guy. He's just, when you have that much confidence, you're fearless. And you have to have that ability as a punt returner or a kickoff returner, going full speed up in between the wedge, right? I mean, so I think he's got that fearless competitiveness to him. And I also think he's got a skill and a knack for returning kicks and punts. I think he'll factor in there early on for Texas because I think he's that talented. And that's not part of, look, the longer he is in baseball, as Bobby said, he's not going to get as much time with Torrey Beckton. Now, I will say this. There's been 2 times I was up at Moncrief, kind of around Moncrief, waiting for recruits to show up, and Jonah walked out of the football facility both times. He's in there. He's been in some meetings when he has time, right? So it's not like he has zero football prep. This was all part of the plan, sitting on some meetings when you have time, be in the football facility around baseball games and workouts, and that's exactly what's playing out. I think he's going to be an impact guy on special teams right out of the gate for Texas. And we'll see. The good thing for Jonah, though, and kids don't like to hear this necessarily, but it's a good thing for him. Texas is really good and really deep at safety. And it's not a situation where he has to be rushed onto the field. I mean, there's NFL talented guys that are starters. It's safety right now and probably backups right now. So I think special teams, you'll see some instant impact from him. Again, baseball players that play the outfield, they track a baseball over their head, right? They track a ball in the air really well. Once you have that component and you're a fearless guy with the ball skills and the ability after the catch, whether that be in the kick return game or whether if you're playing wide receiver, those guys tend to translate really well in the punt return game, even at his size.
I just think he's a freak athletically.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that out there. So, I mean, all of what Jerry's saying is accurate. the reality of it is, sometimes you see guys and you just know. And I could be wrong, and it definitely could be premature. But I would bet heavily on that young man, just based on what I've seen. That's all I would say. How and where and why, what sport even ends up being his best, I'm not sure. But I know that I'd like to be a 5% player in that whatever contract he gets that's going to end up being enormous at whatever level he plays at, football, baseball. I mean, there's another thing. He played basketball too, Jerry. Guys like that, we all grew up. We didn't all grow up with somebody like Jonah Williams, but we all know what we're talking about. You see the guy and you're like, oh, okay, he's different. I think Jonah Williams is different.
By the way, something important, and this is football and basketball. Portal closes this week. Basketball portal closes tonight at 11:59 p.m. Once that calendar turns to April 22nd, portal's closed in college basketball. So if you're going to put your name in, you have to do it today by 11:59 p.m. Football portal closes April 25th. So those are two big dates this week, because why I think they're very important in recruiting is you're holding on to the guys you have that you want to hold on to. And so look for timing with some of these portal visitors as well, potentially, that you want your portal dates to close for your team. And then you make your next move with guys who are in the portal. So just something to watch. I'm not saying they'll play out that way in basketball. For a lot of schools around the country, it's definitely playing out that way. But for football, 4 days left before the portal window closes. So that's player retention one. And maybe there's a couple of guys that you wait on, bring them in maybe next weekend after that portal window closes, after all your guys are – what your roster is at as far as retention, Bobby. There's a lot that goes into this with the thought process.
Yeah, I think that we're in that situation now when we talk about portal for football, where we're waiting to see who Texas is really going to target in the stretch, right? They came out of the portal guns blazing, no doubt about it, right? 4 guys in less than a week. They clearly had their ideas of what they wanted to do, and they accomplished it. Now it's about supplementing the roster the rest of the way. What that'll look like, and I think Jerry's point is, even though the portal closes on Friday, that will be the deadline for when Texas players can enter, by the way. All right. So that doesn't mean Texas can't sign players from other teams after the fact. So we'll be monitoring exits and possible entrants right now as it relates to these guys.
Hey, we also, before we move on, we need to give a shout out to Texas softball. They beat LSU this weekend in a crazy series of events.
2-1.
Yeah.
The rubber game on Saturday was they each won. They literally went down in the 7th, down 1 to LSU, and then came back in the bottom half of the inning and pulled it off. It was a thrilling win for Mike White and his team.
Definitely. And he got his 300th career win while at Texas as well. And then, of course, Thursday, Jerry, we talked about it Friday morning, was that game where they had the first base drama followed by the walk-off grand slam, the first one in program history for a win. So very cool there. And then men's tennis won the SEC championship over the weekend.
6 SEC championships for Texas. Is that right? 6 this year already?
Yeah, that's double anybody else, I believe, in other sports. So, look, I mean, the SEC is a great conference. Texas is a great college sports program. Chris Del Conte, and not just Chris Del Conte, but look, we sit there and talked about Jim Schlossnagle and him and Mike White. I mean, they just have good coaches up and down the list. We've talked about this, and I continue to believe that that's, the value of college coaches is, Bob Bowman won a national championship at Arizona State and then immediately comes to Texas and wins a national championship. the value of coaches is, legit. Is all I can say for in the college.
I think men's golf is ranked number 1 right now as well, or they have been. So
yep. They won like 3 or 4 tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we get to some questions and some super chats, guys, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell everyone about Pure Hydration. And Pure is a plant-based hydrating electrolyte drink mix with no added sugar. It's a natural, delicious, and convenient way to keep you and your whole family hydrated, but without the artificial stuff. And I'm very selective on what I put in my body, so Pure is right up my alley. It's made with clean ingredients, which means you stay healthy and stay energized, but without the crash. And hydration is key to feeling your best, and Pure makes it easier than ever. I drink it every single morning to start my day, usually right here on Coffee and Football after having a cup of coffee. And it tastes great. They offer 7 amazing flavors that you're going to love. It's also convenient. You take it with you anywhere, as each bag contains 14 on-the-go packets that you just dump into a bottle of water. Hydration goes beyond just drinking water. It's about replenishing the electrolytes that we lose through sweat, sleep, alcohol, and other daily activities. Water alone isn't enough to do the job. That's why you have to try Pure, the electrolyte drink mix that tastes as amazing as it'll make you feel. And for OTF listeners, Pure is offering 20% off your first order. Stay hydrated and feel your best by visiting purehydration.com/OnTexas and then use promo code OnTexas at checkout. Again, that's purehydration.com/OnTexas and use code OnTexas for 20% off your first order.
I want to bring this up real quick. The Green Lantern asks, is Jonah's scholarship 100% for football divided with baseball? It's football. And the whole reason he's at Texas is he made a football decision. I've talked about this a few times because within the family, it was actually split what he should do. There were some people in the family that said, stay at Galveston Ball your senior year, play this out on the baseball diamond, see what happens, because he'd have likely been a first-round pick. He wanted to play college football. That's why he's at Texas, and that's why he made the decision he made. His plan is 100% to play college football. Now, I do think at some point he'll have to, if he keeps doing what he's doing, and then if he's successful in the football field, he'll be forced into a decision at some point coming up in the next couple of years. But I think he made a football decision. He wants to be a college football player. He wants to experience all of that, and he wanted to do it on a tremendous program, and that's what led him to Texas. And I'll also say this, Bobby, without NIL, I think there's almost close to a 0% chance he would be at Texas right now. Because
or in college sports.
In college sports. Because if there was not NIL, then there is no way he leaves high school early and leaves a senior year of baseball at Galveston Ball. 0 chance. That is the reason he's at Texas is because of NIL. Because there's that possibility to compete with a guy who, now if he's a first-round pick, if he'd have been a high first-round pick, there's no competing with that. But that's free healthcare for life, by the way. But then once you get into that second, if you fall into that second or third round, there's some competition there if you also want to play football. But without NIL, there's no chance he's at Texas right now.
I don't know that an 18-year-old or 17-year-old is thinking about free healthcare for life. But as a 55-year-old, I can tell you that it does matter.
But I'll say this: it mattered with that family. Because Nick Williams was a sandwich pick out of high school, and they've already been through the process.
Yeah,
but you're right, Bobby. But you're right. Jonah's not thinking about that. People are bringing it to his attention.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get free flu shots for life, buddy. Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do that.
Where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, Blake, we have some more questions to get to today.
We do indeed, guys. And we're going to start with another super chat from Jack here. Thank you again, Jack. Mayo money for Jenny to get ready for Bobby's corn dog. Does Corey Becton workout programs differ between the spring and summer?
Of course. Yeah, Corey Becton. Absolutely. I think that spring tends to be more tear them down and build them up, whereas summer tends to be more tweaking, getting ready for the season. So you're going to do lower weight numbers in the summer and do more stamina type work. That's my understanding historically.
I'm going to respond. Smooth Alabama fan says Texas bought their whole roster. And I say congrats to your 6 national titles doing the exact same thing.
Oh. We have a super chat here from Jay Lee. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you. And Jay says it's Joel Klatt said the key to a natty is veteran experienced players. Michigan 24, Ohio State in 25. Well, we have to wait for that perfect timing. Our offense is young this year, but our D is veteran.
That's a great question. I mean, here's what I would say. I mean, look at the guys they just took. Jack Injuries has 2 years. Emmett Mosley has two or 3 years. Mason Shipley has 2 years. Levon Johnson has 2 years. Every single one of these guys they've taken in the portal has multiple years left. Arch Manning has multiple years left. Ryan Wingo has multiple years left. I would tell you that if my thought process was this, I think Texas is setting up for a big time run in 26, but I wouldn't discount them in 25. Perhaps because I do think they're so good on defense right now. I think they're going to be really, really talented on defense next year.
Yeah.
Now, can they put it all together like they did this year? I still think that's the biggest question mark I have. Is whether or not the secondary can be nearly as good as what they were this year. The secondary was just so together in 2024. I don't know how you replicate that. I don't know that that's even humanly possible. Because you're losing 2 guys that were in Andrew Makuba and Jade Barron that were, the very embodiment of coaches on the field / film junkies. They were making plays that they had seen on film. They just reacted to stuff. That is just, how do you replace that? That's my one concern about this Texas defense is how does that secondary come together?
Yeah. I can bring this up. Randy Bobandy. He's Floribama is it may be the best spot ever to watch SEC football. My goal, Bobby, is for us to have a live stream from Floribama at some point here in the next couple 3 years.
Maybe an off week or something.
That is a unbelievably cool spot.
And then we have a super chat from Naaman Roberts. Thank you, Naaman. Jonah Williams will be the first player at Texas to win a natty in baseball and football. You heard it here first. And someone commented that James Street actually did this in the chat. So I got to look, and Street did win of course, was on the 69 team in football, and then went to the College World Series 3 times, 68, 69, and 70, but no championship in those 3 years in baseball. So he came close, but Jonah definitely has the shot. There's no doubt about it. Okay, our next question here.
Baseball national championship this year. That is just phenomenal to me.
Yeah.
I will guarantee you this. I'm guessing. Maybe not guaranteed. Well, I will guarantee it.
I'm guaranteeing that I'm guessing.
Yes. Very accurate guess.
Okay.
Have 2 coaches won national championships their first year at a new program.
Bowman and Schloss. I don't know.
Surely Stanford did it in maybe Olympic sports at some point, but we'll see. Have you had 2 first-year coaches win national championships? That would be an amazing accomplishment. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm guessing that list may be 1 or none. Somebody's
pretty good at hiring. That's what I would say.
Yeah, somebody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, somebody knows how to hire people.
Well, guys, the NFL draft is this week, and Pro Football Network actually put out a 7-round mock draft that I want to get into in a second. But first, Bobby, I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell everyone what y'all's plans are for the draft on that first night.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, given that Xavier Worthy was going in the first round, Byron Murphy was going to go in the first round, we decided to do a live stream in conjunction with the draft. We're going to do that again. So just come and hang out. We'll talk a little football as it relates to the Longhorns, as it relates to whatever. but it will get going around 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Aaron Hogan will join us. He'll host a little bit. Rod B will be in there. Jerry, myself, CJ, Jeff Howe will all come and go a little bit, but it should be a lot of fun, I think, to just watch it kind of all transpire. The news right now that I think is interesting is, which Longhorn's going to be first off the board. 2 months ago, I don't think anybody would have questioned that it was going to be Kelvin Banks. I've seen now various ones that have Matthew Golden going ahead of Kelvin Banks. I've seen ones that have Jahdae Barron being the first Longhorn pick. So I think we have 3 Longhorns that are probably going to be in the first 20 picks. We just don't know where in the first 20, 25 picks. So that's probably the intriguing question mark for me. And then beyond that, days 2 and 3, just how many Longhorns go off the board in total right now.
So in that mock draft that I referenced, guys, they have 11 horns being taken through the 7 rounds, 3 in the first round. We'll start there. Miami at 13 takes Barron. The Texans at 21 take Banks. And then the Packers at 23 take Golden.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Golden or Teturo McMillan to the Cowboys is what a lot of people are saying. That's 12.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are the other guys? Who are the other ones? Who's not getting drafted, I guess?
How far is Bond slipping right now?
Okay, well, we're going to get into that because he slipped big time. So we'll start round 2. Only one Longhorn in the second round, according to them. The Chiefs take Alfred Collins with the 63rd pick.
Wow.
And then in round 3, it goes Andrew Makuba to the Bears at 73, followed by Helm to the Broncos at 85. Now, worth mentioning, Helm to the Broncos has been in a ton of mock drafts here lately. And then Blue to the Texans at 98. And that's your 2 and 3. Round 4, they have Vernon Broughton to the Steelers at 123. And then Quinn to the Raiders at 143. And then round 5, they have the Dolphins taking Cam Williams with the 153rd pick. And then last but not least, in round 7, Jerry, the Texans with the 241st pick taking Isaiah Bond.
Wow. Slipping all the way to the 7th round?
I would say I just wonder about that. Look, Lael Collins went undrafted, right? And I wonder if the NFL teams aren't able to get any answers, then I could see it going undrafted. But if they feel good about some answers they're getting, I don't think he drops that low. But if he goes undrafted, that means they couldn't get the answers they were looking for. I mean, Lael Collins went undrafted and he was a first-round grade.
There were more question marks around Lael Collins.
I know, but you know what I'm saying, Bobby. If they don't get the answers they want, they're not going to spend high round money there.
7th round for Isaiah Bond's preposterous. It's not happening. I mean, no offense to whoever made the draft, but you got that one wrong. You're not the second fastest or fastest mile per hour guy in the draft and go in the 7th round. And by the way, Isaiah Bond was not unproductive when he was on the field.
Oh no, he's headed for a 1,000-yard season.
That's what I'm saying.
My whole argument to that is it's not about him as a player; it's about the answers these guys are getting.
Yeah.
If they get answers they like, he gets drafted higher. If they don't get answers,
bad answers get him in the 3rd or 4th round, though, Jerry. Not in the 7th.
I think I'm drafted.
You and I are going to be way different.
Yeah.
If he goes past the 3rd round, I'll be shocked. Too much speed.
I wouldn't draft. Just me. I wouldn't draft a guy I didn't have the answers to that on.
In the 4th round?
I wouldn't, period.
Okay, fair.
But I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I would not. I would have to have some really good answers.
Hey, interesting. Alfred Collins seems like he's the 4th guy off the board by a lot of folks now. It looks like just from that standpoint. you know, he had a kind of a mercurial career at Texas. Started off pretty strong, then had some injuries and didn't really play well his second, third year. Came on strong his final year at Texas. He is that prototypical NFL lineman in that he could get after the quarterback, Jerry, while handling the run okay. Like I know this is I long thought his, you know, if his very best, who is he? He's like a Chris Jones. And to have him going at 63 in this draft to the Kansas City Chiefs, that kind of speaks to me a little bit, because I do think that the guy that he reminds me of, if he can maximize, is Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones is a Hall of Fame player,
Right.
so let's get that off the board first. But my point is, I think Alfred Collins, if he can step up like that and get into a position, I think he's going to be a really, really good pro as long as he keeps working hard. You know, the world is his oyster, always has been.
Okay, Bobby, before we move on, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Mint Mobile.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you say data or data? Well, at our house, we say data. And for the longest time, I thought paying a fortune on our monthly data plan was just normal. That was until I found out about Mint Mobile and their premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data or data, your choice, and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. We set my daughter up with this plan while she's away from home for school. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for just $15 a month. No matter how you say it, don't overpay for it. Shop data plans at mintmobile.com/OnTexas. That's mintmobile.com/OnTexas. Upfront payment of $45 is required for a 3-month 5 gigabyte plan, equivalent to $15 per month. New customer offer only for the first 3 months. Then full price options available after that with each plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Again, ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for just $15 a month.
Thank you, Bobby. And let's jump right into some more questions here. Todd Lacey wants to know, what's the next step in the portal for Sark?
Well, finding guys they want is the biggest one. There are still guys to go in. Murad Watson, the defensive lineman out of Syracuse, went in on Saturday officially. We're hearing Texas is involved there, but Tennessee, Miami, SMU, it could be a long one. I think that what's interesting is Texas is going to continue to be aggressive in the portal, but they've got to find the right guys. The immediate needs have now been addressed. That's what we started this conversation with. They addressed defensive tackle depth with LaVon Johnson, a starter at Maryland. They addressed the kicker with Mason Shipley out of Texas State. They addressed wide receiver with Emmett Mosley out of Stanford. They addressed tight end with Jack Indries out of Cal. The immediate needs have been addressed. Now it's about, filling it out and finding guys that can go help you win a national championship. So, Todd, I don't know that there is a predefined position as much as they're looking for players that can help them win a national championship. I do think defensive line might get some priority or prioritization.
Yeah.
Still, because look, they lose 7 defensive tackles off of last year's team, whether it's Sadir Mitchell and the 4 or 5 that graduated, one that left, Tia Savea, et cetera. So they're trying to replace that group. So I could see another one of that. I could see another, even though they've already added 4. And one of the reasons they might add another there is because Travis Shaw, young man out of North Carolina, they took in the portal, has had some knee injuries this spring. So they're a little bit gun shy of not having enough at that position.
Yeah, I'm going to answer this one real quick that just popped up. I've said this a few times, and I'm going to remain the same. He will be at Miami if Jay Lucas wants him at Miami.
Read that question out for the guys that are on.
What's up with Shelton Henderson, the guard from Bel Air that backed out of his Duke commitment? He will be at Miami as long as Jay Lucas wants him at Miami. I would say that. And Texas is not considered a player in that recruitment. I think the only school that probably because of their roster and where they're at with NIL resources, because they have so many spots to fill that can make some crazy big offer, would be A&M. I just don't think it's going to matter. I think that guy you don't back out of going to Duke to not go to Miami with Jay Lucas. As long as Jay wants him, that's where he's going. I mean, you're talking about he's been working with the Lucas family since he was probably 11 or 12. So we're going on 7 years that he's been working out with John Lucas and that family. I think Texas will take a combo guard, and maybe they may take 2. And we'll see. And I think they will take 2 more spots on their roster in terms of basketball. And that portal closes at 11:59 tonight. I think we'll see some movement.
And going back to the portal here, we've had a lot of people ask about the BYU transfer wide receiver / kick returner. Have y'all heard anything regarding that?
Not at this time. Not at this time. And that was as of Saturday afternoon. Texas had not officially reached out even. So while Keelan Marion's his name, as of Saturday, I do not believe Texas had reached out. So I don't know that wide receiver is a place. I mentioned this when they took Emmett Mosley, the 5th. I thought that they might be done at wide receiver, and I still think they probably are, unless just something falls into their lap, which is possible. A return guy would be it, actually. So that makes a lot of sense, but I don't think they're going to go break the bank for the BYU receiver.
I feel like Texas feels like they have a couple of number 1 level receivers. I don't think that's what they're going for. And by the way, I don't think that would make sense for the kid. By the way, Roger said he asked this question, but it's a good one to talk about. So since Sadir transferred to LSU, he'll be able to play this season. Yes, because he was a January transfer, but he's out for the season with injury, by the way. Or that's what LSU's saying. He got hurt in spring. But he has if you transfer in the spring, you can't go SEC to SEC and be immediately eligible. It's only in January.
There you go. And Kenny Joe says, Bobby and Jerry, if you could fill one more position, what would be your next portal selection?
Good question.
Debate between a second tight end, if you can get a high end one, and a defensive tackle. For me, I mean, the key is how good are they? Like, I think they still may need depth at tight end. I think they're done with depth at defensive tackle. I think if you can get an elite player at defensive tackle, it may be the most valuable.
And that's also the highest leverage positions now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to cost you.
Yeah.
But I agree with Bobby. That's where it's at. But those are big recruitments because there's not many of those guys out there. I agree. I think Texas has done a really good job there. So that's what it would be, a difference maker, disruptor. DJ Dog 31. So the portal deadline just means last day to enter. Yeah. So let's just for instance, let's say somebody, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. So let's say somebody from Texas entered the portal on April 24th, put their name in the portal April 24th at 10 p.m., Bobby. There's a 48-hour window Texas has to talk to that player. So this is how things would go. 48-hour time frame Texas could talk to that player, or a college if a guy jumps in really late on the 24th, midday on the 24th. So there's a 48-hour period where they can talk to that player and try to convince him to stay if they want him to. Then you go into the portal officially after that, as far as being recruited. But all you have to have is your name in the portal. You don't have to have a decision. Basketball, they just have to have their name in the portal tonight by 11:59. Not a decision. The decision can carry out as long as these guys want it to.
Yeah, the only caveat to what Jerry said there is, like Texas, while there is a 48-hour window to put it into a 48-hour business window, by the way, to put it into the portal, Texas didn't wait that long with Bert Auburn or Malik Agbo.
Right.
So if one goes in, you would think that they might be willing to negotiate with or try to negotiate with some and not others, etc. The one thing that I will say that while the one thing that happened up at OU this weekend, David Stone, a big defensive tackle, 5-star guy, signed with OU last year, big NIL deal, put his name in the portal on Friday. And that kind of sent shockwaves around the OU program and the fan base, et cetera. On Sunday, he came back and took his name out of the portal after getting a better deal from NIL at OU. And the problem that I have there is that sets a very dangerous precedent for OU. Hey, I'm going to put my name in the portal and kind of leverage you to get more money. Now, I think that a lot of people can do that and get away with it. I think Sark has said, you do that publicly, you're gone.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it can't happen behind the scenes, but Sark's not going to do it publicly. He's not going to deal with that stuff publicly. So the stuff that's going on at OU right now is very interesting because the general manager, while he works in concert with the head football coach, I'm not sure that they answer to one another. And I just, I'm Brent Venables, and I'm hearing that I'm losing my defensive tackle to the portal, because my NIL guy doesn't want to up the ante, whereas I see that as key to what I want to do now. I think it's ripe for problems. And I also think Jim Nagy's getting just like North Carolina, by the way, these guys that come from the pros down to college, they're getting a little bit of a taste of college isn't the pros right now. North Carolina thought LaVon Johnson was signed with them, going to go there. Mike Lombardi, the GM, big. He's got a lot of credentials in the NFL, 0 credentials in college, by the way. He had he got a taste of his own medicine on Friday with the Longhorns. And I think that these guys that are coming down from pros to college think they've got it all figured out because it's worked in the pros. College is a little different. There's some recruiting to it. There's true recruiting. It's not, there's no collective bargaining where A plus B equals C. There's some nuance to it. And I think Texas and Brandon Harris and Steve Sarkisian, they know this game. Jeff Banks, Johnny, they know it, Jerry. You know exactly what I'm saying. There's some know-how there that doesn't come just with having this, Ivy League resume or whatever.
Well, the thing with right now, which I just am not a fan of in the current landscape, is you can sign an NIL deal with a school, but then you can walk away with no buyout a week later, like Rob Wright, the point guard, did at Baylor, and just go to BYU. That's the issue I have with it. And that's all the experience these guys had in the NFL. It doesn't play to that. Because once you signed a contract, you're signed a contract. And now with where NIL currently is, and this is one thing that needs to change, in my opinion. I'm all for the kids getting paid, always have been, but there has to be some changes made. You can't sit there and sign a deal with Baylor like what happened to Baylor basketball. And I just use that as an example because that's the most recent thing. And I thought that was that and Nico are going to be one of the things that are going to force the change coming up after this house settlement agreement, if it ever goes through. You shouldn't just be able to sign a contract with Baylor and then 2 weeks later already start taking money off that NIL deal. Then 2 or 3 weeks later decide, you know what, BYU came with an offer, I'm going to do that. With no buyout, no nothing. that has to change because people are like, well, college coaches do it all the time. Yeah, they have buyouts though. They have buyouts. There's something to that. Like
they could do it, Jerry. They could do it by putting it in their contract. That's Baylor's fault for not putting it in his contract or negotiating it.
Nah, but it needs to be part of the rules, Bobby, because they nobody's going to do that until they're forced to. Nobody would you sign a contract like that unless you were forced to?
Multi-million-dollar deal. I mean, there's a give and take for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that some schools already have it. I think Baylor got porked because Baylor didn't do a good job. Not necessarily because Rob Wright was, I mean, look, Baylor's basketball team, by the way, if you haven't followed it, is having to replace every single player on their roster this offseason. So they've got some work ahead of them. But anyways, my point to Jerry's right in that there needs to be some clawback for sure. But it's good. Look, you can't just give these collectives and universities a hall pass when it comes to negotiating contracts. You know, they have to earn them and earn it.
We're going to stay on the portal for a moment here because Corey J wants to know what transfer do you guys think will make the biggest impact this season?
Jerry, Cole Brevard.
Based on last season, Mason Shipley needs to. I mean, there was a couple of costly kicks down the stretch for Texas, and again, I've said it. I mean, you make a kick you beat Georgia and win the SEC national championship or the SEC championship, then you have a bye in the first round. Cam Williams doesn't get hurt against Clemson. I don't know. I think it's going to be between Shipley, Jack injuries, and Cole Brevard. I'd say I'm going to maintain what I've said. I think Texas is going to be better against the run on the interior this year with the guys they've added. I think they're all going to be really good players against the run. Disruptive-wise, I'm not sure they're going to be as good with Vernon and Alfred being gone. Alfred drew a lot of doubles, but they're going to be better against the run because of guys like Brevard and the depth I think they've added there. But I think it's kind of a tie between those three guys. I think Cole Brevard's got a big job next year, but that's more of a rotational. I think Mason Shipley stands alone at kicker, and Jack Injuries has a really big job as well. While Jordan Washington gains experience, which he missed being hurt during the spring, Nick Townsend, Emery Winston are brought along. I would say those two guys for me.
Okay, let's see here. Our next question is going.
I forgot punter, by the way, but he's probably fourth or fifth on that list.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that was a good job by Brendan Bowersox that brought that one up in the chat.
Yep.
We haven't talked about this, Bobby. So Nico apparently went from 2.5 to 1.4 at UCLA with the tax bracket in California. We haven't really talked about it, but I'm not sure that went the way his advisors wanted it to go.
Yeah, that's why you hire a Ron Slavin, the guy that worked with Quinn and so many different Texas players, or a David Mulugeta, guys that actually know what the hell they're doing instead of guys that pretend to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just that look, you're dealing with millions of dollars here. There's no pretend. I mean, it eschew with the idea of going after, guys that are not true agents. It's too much. There's too much at stake. And, the dad, what I like is the moving target that the dad is and the whole group of them are as it relates to why Nico moved. Well, it's because it wasn't the money that we were trying to get more of. It was the offense.
Yeah.
Okay. So UCLA has got a great offense. They got a new coordinator, right? I mean, the UCLA offense is all of a sudden this great shakes. You went to Tennessee in the first place and it's been the same offense the whole time.
Well, 420, it's 420 somewhere just nailed that one to the wall and laughed at it. He left because of the offense. Then why didn't he leave in January? Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
these guys think they're the smartest guy in the room and everybody's laughing at him.
Yeah.
Oh, he left because of the offense. It's the, it's that whole Art Briles offense. It's not developing as a quarterback. Then why didn't you walk in January? BS. People aren't buying it.
Yeah. Anyways, my point being, that's why if I were advising parents, and this goes to parents in today that have high school seniors, and you're being recruited by the Texases of the world. Don't try to do it yourself unless you really have legal experience. Find somebody that you trust that has done it for others and done it successfully. That's where you need to lean.
Hey, raise your hand in the chat if you think Nico will jump in the portal after the season.
That's a good one. Because I bet he does.
Today,
he'll be back in the portal in January.
He may be back in the portal on Friday. I mean, given his representation in how he's handled this, I have no clue what he's going to do. I mean, he could end up trying to go pro after, completing 45% of his passes next year. That, given his representation, that's my take on it.
So it's 420 says Nico goes to the draft regardless in the year. Possibly. It depends on what kind of year he has. Possibly. I'm not sure that's an option for him right now, though. We'll see how he plays this year, but that's not a bad thought too.
Hey, Jerry, I know this is a little bit sidebar, but there's that graphic going around in commentary, like shows the top 5 quarterbacks from Arch Manning's year and how all but Arch have transferred. What do you think the commonality of that transfer piece is? So I want to put this out there. I think that processing speed of defense is what is causing those guys to transfer. Jackson Arnold could not process quickly enough. Nico is a one-sided guy, but I think it's, I just think he's overrated or was overrated coming out. Is there anything that you think of when you think of that list of 5 quarterbacks? Like, if you could bring that up.
Well, it's Arch Manning, Nico, Dante Moore, who's at Oregon, and they love him. That may have been a Chip Kelly left scenario. Jackson Arnold, Malachi Nelson. Now he was a really overrated guy. He's now in school 3. Jaden Rashada. That's just that worked out really well for ASU, by the way. Austin Mack went with his coach. So that's 6 guys. But what it is, what's interesting?
Any commonality there on the overrated part? Is it processing speed? Like, I think Jackson Arnold and Nico extremely overrated. Is that their fallback was processing speed, maybe, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that for sure. I also think here's the crazy thing where recruiting rankings by the industry matter more now than ever. They factor in how big of an NIL deal you get. That's kind of crazy to think about. It used to just be, hey, this guy's ranked high. Yeah, I mean, in the SEC, did it mean something? Yeah, maybe for the battles. Sorry, Smooth. But look, Nico goes into Tennessee. There were some people that ranked him ahead of Arch. What kind of pressure does that put on that guy in expectations? These people in our industry ranked him over Arch Manning. I mean, but to your point, Bobby, it's hard to say. I mean, look, I think spread football and 7-on-7 football is good for quarterbacks in terms of getting the ball out of their hand. It's not great for quarterbacks learning how to actually play quarterback. So you better have a really good guy around you that's still teaching you how to play quarterback. 7-on-7 is great for guys getting out and ripping the ball around, but it's not great for footwork and it's not great for your development as a quarterback because it leads to bad habits and lazy throws that you can complete without pass rush in your face. you better have really good quarterback instructor around you nowadays if you're playing a spread one read system, or if you and then you play a lot of 7-on-7, because that's not really the development of the position. And I think that hurts kids. I think it makes for some great highlights for them, but I'm not sure it's great for their true development and they're gonna have to do at the next level. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I don't know about NIL deals pushing a recruiting ranking. That's just that's kind of silly to me. I feel like processing speed is poor for Nico and Jackson Arnold. Not sure that Malachi Nelson, I would probably put him in that category. And processing at 7-on-7 is different than in the, exactly. When there's live bullets. I don't know. I think the more you look at college, more you look at quarterback, the job of a quarterback, the more you think processing is more important, in my opinion. Processing and accuracy. Those are the two things, And how do you process and then compete, right? What is that? The effect of those two things bring out. That's where I'm at. As we go into this NFL draft week, so I gotta have some of my principles I'm espousing here as it relates to quarterbacks.
Well, before we get to our last question or two of the day, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management.
Yeah, absolutely. John is a proud UT alum, has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes board member, now helping lead the build out of the Collin County, Texas Exes, while Sark is finishing the build out of the Longhorns 2025 football team. In anticipation of that, John and the Longhorn Wealth team are offering all OTF fans the opportunity to draft their own financial future by taking advantage of a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy by identifying and implementing the strategies and solutions you need to achieve all your wealth management goals and dreams. Call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation today. Hook 'em from John Donovan and the Longhorn Wealth Management team.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. And we have a super chat here. This super chat comes from, it's 420 somewhere, and he says, does Texas have any interest in Jaylen Brown from Florida State? Seems like the speed guy we need.
Not a name I've heard. Jerry?
No, not that we've heard, no. I think you're talking about the Jaylen Brown that was came out of the private, so Gulliver Prep down in Miami. I think that's who you're talking about there. That went to LSU, transferred out. Hasn't really been productive. Talented kid. Texas recruited him out of high school, but I haven't heard anything about that.
Jaylen Brown was expected to be a big offensive piece for Florida State this season, but is no longer part of the program. Brown was dismissed from the team for basically third-degree felony charge. So I don't think that's going to be the guy Steve Sarkisian goes after. Just a guess.
Why not? Why not?
Kirby Smart, well, may fit right in.
He's got to pass the fast driving test. Dude, I'm like, you have to take a driving test when you go to Georgia, like going down 100 in a city street. Like, if you can pull it off, I don't know.
They test you on Mario Kart, is what it is. Yeah.
They give you a go kart, see how fast they can go.
Man, and my apologies to Jerry's Jack Links here. I didn't see this. He said, I know the Nico thing didn't go down smoothly, but this was actually smart to do it just before the settlement. Seemed a little hasty. I have a feeling he got a nice payday at UCLA.
He got less at UCLA than he was going to get at Tennessee by just staying. So he did not use the house settlement to leverage anybody because he had no leverage. ultimately. He's at one of the top 5 to 10 paying schools in NIL in Tennessee, and he went to one of the, I don't know, lower 15.
And by the way, was a starting quarterback on a playoff team in the SEC.
Yeah. High profile to,
by the way,
mediocre profile.
And our last one for today, fellas, is going to come from Antoine. And he wants to know, what does the wide receiver depth chart look like?
Well, right now, the starters would be Wingo, Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, and Parker Livingstone. Okay, if you add in Emmett Mosley, then you would probably take out Livingstone.
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. Now, behind that are nothing but freshmen.
Livingstone, McCutcheon, and French.
Yeah. Livingstone, McCutcheon, French, Lockett, Terry are the others. The question, I think Livingstone is clearly ahead of the others. I think McCutcheon is probably next, based on just what we've heard to this point. I think they're still waiting to see what they have in Jamie French and Khalil Lockett this summer. Those guys need some more time to bake a little bit. That's what it looks like right now. By the way, Parker Livingstone is having a great camp. I just want to put that out there. A great camp.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I want to thank them, along with Cure Hydration and Mint Mobile, for sponsoring today's show. And of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. Bobby, what can people expect later today?
Well, Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel are going to talk a little Longhorn football here in a couple hours. They got the winning drive at 3:15. Rod B, Bob Shipley, and CJ talk. And then Jerry and I are going to take your recruiting questions around 7 o'clock tonight on Talking Ball. Also, please visit us at ontexasfootball.com. If there's any portal news that's breaking, we will have it there during the day. Again, that's ontexasfootball.com. Make sure you check us out.
And at important times, 11:59 p.m. tonight, basketball portal closes. All that means is guys have to have their name in. I'm not expecting anybody to leave Texas. I do think Texas will add a couple of guys, and I'm not saying next soon or whatever. I'm not saying not, but and then football closes on 11:59 p.m. on April 25th, right before the Texas visit weekend, and then the Texas staff hits the road the following week for spring evaluation.
Wow, good stuff. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. And hope you all have a great day, by the way. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.